All right, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Mets Weekly Podcast as we are live at this very moment on YouTube and on X to recap the Mets versus Guardians series, along with all the latest news and rumors in New York Mets land. Before we get into all of that, I want to remind everyone to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel for new episodes of our show that are recorded live following every single regular season series. For those of you watching or listening on playback, you want to join the conversation in the future, make sure to turn on those post notifications to know when we go live. Make sure to follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok. For our audio listeners, make sure to follow us on all your favorite listening platforms. Do not miss the audio version of new episodes that go up at 9 a.m. the following day of recorded. Also, make sure to give us a 5-star review. It would be greatly appreciated. So without further ado, let's get into episode number 229 of our show. And we've got a decent amount of stuff to get into. I'm hoping to keep it under the 2-hour mark because it is just me today. So it is just going to be me talking without any breaks. So again, I hope to keep this at the hour and a half to hour 45. Of course, we have a game coming up, and I will also be doing the play-by-play for the watch along. So double duty, let's just say that. But for those of you in here who, either you watch it on playback or not, we usually are just live for watch along coverage as well. For those of you on audio who usually do not see us live or you just watch on playback. But other than that, we've got plenty to get into. Mets have sold off plenty of pieces at the deadline, and they started that era in a pretty positive way, sweeping this Guardians team. We're going to get into that. But first and foremost, we are going to go over the trade deadline, obviously, considering the fact. Listen, we knew that this team was going to be selling. We knew that they were going to be auctioning off pieces. How they went about it, I have a little bit of mixed feelings about it. However, I think the early returns so far have kind of settled it down a little bit. Not just the fact of, arbitrary prospect rankings or different ways of these guys getting viewed. It's more of just the fact of what assets do they have that, again, they want to keep around as future pieces for this team, or are they just going to go for something forward in the offseason to move some of these pieces for, whether it is a coveted piece on the trade market because of the situation that is at hand going into 2027. So, again, a lot of factors went into this trade deadline, probably more than the usual. But the Mets definitely got a decent return on talent. It depends on how they went about everything, and we're going to get into pretty much every single trade that they did make in this deadline. We're going to go over the returning pieces. We're going to go over some stuff of, what we are seeing with these pieces, and, maybe their future here, either in the major leagues or future with this franchise going forward. And then, of course, they have to still play baseball. And we're going to get into the Mets versus Guardians series, and there's still plenty of stuff to talk about in regards to that. But either way, we already knew the position that this team is in. Arguably, you could say it is worse than what it was in 2023. I'm pretty sure 2023, they ended off where they were like 6 games out of the final wild card spot. And then, of course, the rest of the year, they didn't play well, and they were one of the worst teams in baseball. But in 2026, fast forward to now, it really, this team is not in a great position as to where we could see, a team sell at the deadline and make it amazing. Detroit Tigers comeback the way that they did 2 years ago, the gritty Teagues or whatever they were calling them. This team is pretty much dead in the water. And there's a lot of things right now that have to be talked about, either whether it is internally about this organization going forward, because it's been nothing but a disaster this year, and I think everybody can agree. You hope that they can move forward and can progress to a certain extent. The problem is that you just don't know if it's just going to be going forward, these little spurts of success, and then they just completely flame out afterwards, or we see a sustainable success, which was mainly the main goal for this team and this franchise for quite a while. and they just haven't been able to find it. One of the main reasons of that being has been a lot of the decision making, a lot of the personnel, a lot of self-inflicted wounds that it still seems like they really do seem to continue to want to do. But again, we could talk about them in so many different ways as well. Again, David Stearns, we know he's in a hot seat with Mets fans as of right now. Either if he is on the hot seat right now in the Mets front office, which I don't think he is. I hate to break it to everybody, but I just don't think he is. That doesn't mean that I'm saying I agree with it. But again, there is a lot of heat around David Stearns. And some of the returns on some of these trades that he did make, I feel like, again, you never know who could go up through the farm system, who could succeed, who could be a riser, because some of these pieces are relatively young and have a decent amount of their minor league career ahead of them. But I do think that the full-on focus that they had in this deadline only comes down to about 2 trades. And I'll get into those trades because they are the last 2 that they did make, which I think got them the best return out of any of them, not just of how prospects are regarded, but more of just the way they went about it. We talked about this a little bit on the trade deadline stream, of where with the Mets having either the expiring pieces or these pieces that are at the lowest value who have struggled in terms to guys like Freddie Peralta, who was struggling, or other pieces that weren't having the best season, or their value was down, or they were ended up being a rental. I really wanted to see them get one piece in return instead of doing these 2-for-1 types of deals. And we were seeing that at a decent pace so far. And again, I don't know if it has anything to do with the pedigree of Freddie Peralta getting 3 pieces, or just a team trying not to, oversell on prospect capital for pieces that are, declining in certain ways. But also I do think that there could have been a little bit more in regards to this trade deadline. And I feel like they could have maximized it a little bit better. But either way, exactly what do I know in that certain sense? Maybe these guys, somebody in this sell-off ends up being a key piece to this team, ends up being an everyday starter. Who knows? But I do think that the thought process that they used was probably just a little bit off-putting into the process of getting maybe an everyday player, getting an asset that could be remotely to the level of possibly getting you more talent on the trade market, or someone who, could be an everyday player in 6 years of control. Now we'll see what those 6 years of control look like after the lockout. Maybe they change some stuff in there as well. A lot of different factors go into what's going to go on with the CBA negotiations in comparison to the last one. And a lot of that also having to do with the factor of, who is willing to give up whatever they are giving up for guys with years of control, of years that who knows if you're actually going to be able to use those years of control on that player, considering the impending lockout in 2027. And to be honest, there is a good possibility that we don't see baseball next year. There is a good possibility. And to be honest, I will say that guys like Brazoban and guys like Luke Weaver and pieces that they traded off probably had a little bit less value in comparison to probably what they usually do with those years of control, considering the fact that we don't know what tomorrow is in 2020 in terms of 2027. So I do think that probably pushed them all the way back. The Mets also did not really cover that much of contracts either. Luke Weaver is the only one that they covered. They didn't cover Freddie Peralta's contract. They didn't cover anything of AJ Minter's contract. They didn't pay anything down to league minimum whatsoever. And that probably could have affected their returns as well. Now, let me just show you exactly what I do mean when we go through all of these trades that they did make in terms of it. Burnt Toast in here saying he did the trades on the back of a napkin in a diner. I'd say some of them, it could have been better. I wasn't expecting hauls, but what I was expecting was for them to try and breach for the best talent. The best way that they can go with that best talent in the certain situation that you are with either the resources that you have or overall, the expiring deals, the value being down, or paying down some of those contracts, you can use those resources to get the better asset. And it didn't seem like the Mets were very motivated to do so. And for a farm system that seems to be definitely knocked down a lot of pegs in terms of where they were last year, not just because of either injuries or underperformance in the farm system, but a lot of the top guys obviously graduated, and that's usually what happens. I wasn't mad in that certain sense, but there definitely was a different condition in terms of the farm system in comparison to last year to this year. I don't think it's as drastic of people saying, oh, this organization's a complete mess. And right now, even though we're seeing a mess on the field, right now, in terms of how they can replenish the farm system, the best way to do it is to get the best talent. And personally, I just don't think that they made that big of an effort to do that with some of these trades. So the first trade, as we get into the full-on recap of these guys, the first trade that they made was expected to happen first because there was some reports that came out, and Jeff Passan confirmed it. There was some stuff from John Heyman about it happening, that being AJ Minter being traded to the Minnesota Twins for infielder Billy Amick and infielder Bruin Agbayani. Now, in terms of these two pieces, Billy Amick, he's a 23-year-old first base, third base, former second-round pick by the Twins in 2024. He was their 21st overall ranked prospect via MLB Pipeline. Again, it's arbitrary to what it is. He is more of a power over contact bat. He does have a lot of in-zone swing and miss, but he does have a lot of in-zone damage. He has above average swing decisions as well, so he still does walk at a fairly high clip, so you can deal with the swings and misses. So far this year, he has slashed 217, 335, 480 this season with 38 extra base hits, 24 home runs across 394 plate appearances at the AA level. He does have below average speed. His future defensively seems to be unclear with a mixed bag of inconsistency at first base and third base, probably a little bit similar to that profile that we were talking about with guys like Mark Vientos. But either way, so far in his minor league tenure with the New York Mets, he's already hit 3 home runs with them in the first 4 games that he's already played. So he's making an instant impact. It seems to be ready to go. Now, Bruin Agbayani, now everybody may recognize that last name. That is, of course, the son of former Mets outfielder, the fly-in Hawaiian, Benny Agbayani. He's a 19-year-old middle infielder, former 6th-round pick by the Twins in 2025. He is their 29th overall ranked prospect. And he's basically the polar opposite of Amick. Now, Amick is, a power over contact bat, could give you, a 30 home run bat if he ends up panning out into the minor leagues. In terms of Agbayani, he's a contact first bat. He's got limited power with kind of this remote left-handed swing, but he does have the plus bat speed. So maybe you do start to see him maybe have developed that power a little bit, but you're probably just not going to see much. He's slashed 268, 412, 341 with a 117 weighted runs created plus. He has dealt with some injuries this season, so he's only had 51 plate appearances at the lower A level. He's above average speed, above average base running, and he has exclusively played shortstop this year. But considering, the frame and it seems like, with his overall reaction time and his arm strength too, he's likely going to be a second baseman going forward. But he does have the range to play shortstop and second base in the lower levels, which is probably the main reason as to, why he's considering to play shortstop right now at 19 years old in the lower level. So, again, in terms of this return, I think Billy Amick is probably one of the 3 I think are the most intriguing prospects that they did acquire. I still don't really know how the ceiling measures up to him possibly being in the major leagues, because I do think that he does get bullied with secondaries as well. There's a lot of concern in swing and miss. There's been a little bit of streakiness throughout his minor league career too. So again, he is a second round talent. I believe he was considered a first round talent, but fell to the second round to the Twins. So he was an overslot pick. 23 years old. There still is time for him, but I would say that the timeline's a little bit more shorter in comparison to a guy like Agbayani, who I don't think, again, I don't think is that great of a prospect, considering the fact of this is probably just like a, utility guy, middle infielder, a guy who can basically just, wreak havoc defensively on the base pass and pieces like that, which again, a lot of teams need. A lot of teams do need to help win those games, but I just don't think that it's just sitting here as the high profile. And listen, I know that a lot of people want to go off of the last name and say, well, this is the son of, of a former big leaguer. That's not a factor that's important to me personally. I know that a lot of people love Benny Agbayani. He was a fan favorite here for multiple years. But again, I don't know into where, like the construct of where I was saying 2-for-1 deals. I still do believe they probably could have got something a little bit better. And even if it was 2 pieces, I do also believe that if they paid down the rest of AJ Minter's contract, another guy that you probably could have gotten in return. Because again, AJ Minter is in his mid-30s. He's going to be a rental. He's going to free agency at the end of the year. He's been hurt. We already know the story with AJ Minter. It hasn't been a smooth road here, but when he's been on the mound, he's been pretty solid for us. And he is a back-end reliever type of guy, someone that you definitely can use in October, who has experience in October. I do believe, again, they could have gotten a little bit better for him, whether that is paying down the contract or going for the 1-for-1. But either way, you got Billy Amick, who, again, I think could be in the conversation to possibly be a major leaguer at one point and get his chance. Will that be with the Mets? I don't know. Because he does have some intriguing hitting tools. But, we will see what it gets limited to, but I do believe that this is a first-round hitting talent, definitely. In overall, let's just say, damage he does at the plate, it's not really just the overall consistency, it's more of just the overall damage, and I just don't know how that's going to bode well, either whether we're talking about AAA pitching or whether we are talking about with Major League pitching, but you just never know. I don't know. But either way, with this return, if I were to give it a grade, let's say this, I think I would probably give it a solid B. Like, I don't completely hate it. I think that there's still things that can be, salvageable here, because I think Billy Amick, again, is an intriguing bat at least. Bruin Agbayani could be an organizational guy, somebody that is valued by other teams that probably pick him up in a certain trade or something. I don't know if he has as much of a future, but if I were to pick, I would say that Billy Amick does have a little bit more of a chance to possibly do something in the major leagues, but we just never really know. Next trade that happened, which was one of the trades that was, of course, expected to happen as things just completely died down. Freddie Peralta to the Tampa Bay Rays for outfielder Aiden Smith, right-handed pitcher Gary Gill Hill, and second baseman Emilian Petrie. So you go down the list for this. This is their 15th, their 26th, and 27th ranked prospect. Aiden Smith is a 22-year-old outfielder, former fourth-round pick by the Mariners back in 2023. He is their 15th overall ranked prospect, like I said. He is a plus raw power bat with serviceable contact tool, but he does have a very inconsistent approach from what we have heard throughout his minor league career. He has struggled this season with a 694 OPS across 279 plate appearances. However, he is an excellent defender in center field, which could get him to the majors a little bit quicker in comparison to the corner guys that they also picked up. He has a very strong arm in center field, plus speed, very quick from the first jump. I believe he actually did hit a home run last night for High A Brooklyn. So he's already making his impact. Speaking of making their impact, another piece that they brought in this trade, Gary Gill-Hill, who is 21-year-old right-handed pitcher, former 6th-round pick by the Rays in 2022, 26th overall ranked prospect. He has a 4-pitch mix. Fastball sits 93 to 94, tops 97 miles an hour, upper 80s cutter. He has a very explosive arm side sweeper, an average changeup. Has struggled a little bit this year, though, 4.49 earned run average across 108.1 innings and 20 starts at the Double-A level. He's a contact manager more than a swing and miss guy. Does struggle a little bit with the home run ball, it seems like, but he's definitely inducing a decent amount of ground balls, too, to offset that. He does have good control and command. He knows how to expand the zone. Yesterday, he tossed 6 scoreless innings for Binghamton last night. So again, making a good first impression in his organizational debut. And then there was Emilian Petrie, who is a second baseman, 23 years old, former 2nd-round pick by the Rays in 2024, 27th overall ranked prospect. He has a plus hit tool, well below average power, it seems like, a very compact / flat swing from the left side, which basically shows him that he's definitely not hitting for power in any sort of capacity, but he has been scouted as someone with a mature set of swing decisions. He has very quick hands inside. This year, hitting for a lot of contact, walking a lot as well. He slashed 313, 440, 448 with a 140 weighted runs created plus across 392 plate appearances at the Double-A level. He is not as fast, but he is a very, very good base runner, very smart base runner. And that has kind of led him to get 32 stolen bases this season, and I think he had a little bit more in his organizational debut. He is a plus defender, strictly more at second base. He has strong footwork, especially his hands, just basically when the ball just gets off the bat. Very quick to get to the ball. On the second base side, doesn't have as much of a strong arm, mainly reason why he's kind of been limited to that right side of the infield. He has played shortstop and third base in his minor league career, but it seems like he's strictly going to be playing second base for the time being. Now, this return, I see potential for helium here for guys like Gary Gill-Hill and guys like Emilian Petrie. Again, I think that this is one of your typical prototype middle infield, probably someone off the bench or someone, if he does continue to, steal bases the way that he has and, hit for contact the way that he has, someone who, again, could contribute as an everyday second baseman. The problem is that there's definitely a ceiling here with a guy like Petrie, and that, of course, being the lack of power. But again, this is someone who can still help you win baseball games, and, we'll see if, he gives competition to somebody like Mitch Voigt, who also is right now on fire within the organization. We'll see, again, where these guys end up going. Gary Gill-Hill, I was told had a very, very good season last year. But this year he's kind of just fallen off. He's 23 years old, so maybe there's a little bit left in that development in terms of that. So yeah, last year he was pretty impressive in 2025, 3.82 earned run average. His walks were below 2 walks per 9. Again, home run trouble, but he likes to attack hitters. 25 starts last year, keeps the ball on the ground, near 50% ground ball rate. But this year, it's been a little bit of a struggle for him. A lot of that having to do with him just basically struggling to miss bats in general. It seems like he gets ahead in the count, and then he just kind of loses it a little bit. And not just because of him walking guys, but more of just the fact of making bad pitches and his overall command of the strike zone. He just seems to be losing it a little bit. It seems like, again, a 335 BABIP this season is probably one of those full-on factors. Now, again, Aiden Smith, I'm not sure what we are going to see of a guy such as this ceiling. He is actually rule file eligible next year. So there's that. But I do think that there's plus raw power to this guy to where he has at least a quick enough bat to pop you, like, be a 20 home run bat. Maybe that develops a little bit later, but he has really struggled this year. At least he has gotten off to a good start since coming over and playing with the Mets in their organization. Again, this is like 10 plate appearances. But so far he is 5 for 10 with 3 walks. So he's been productive the entire time so far, on his couple stolen bases in there as well. So he's definitely making a good first impression. Maybe these are guys that they're betting on with the upside. But there's that. So again, with this return, again, it's another one of those things where I'm like, okay, just get the best talent. And again, I don't know of like some kind of a major haul of what they would possibly get back. Emilian Pitry and Gary Gill-Hill, I think, are the guys to probably look out for in this return, because there still is a little bit left possibly in their development, or they could be guys who contribute at the major league level. With Aiden Smith, I think that there's definitely a little bit more time there, but also the fact that he has struggled recently. And he seems to be a little bit more of this lottery pick type of thing, because when you're 22 years old, still in high A, have struggled in high A, there's definitely some eyes that, detach from you in comparison to probably some of these other guys who not only at the lower levels, but at the higher levels, in the outfield surplus, or some say, like we say, they probably would be, moving themselves over to, thinking highly of these other outfield prospects that they also got in this trade deadline, which I will get into. Now, the next trade that was made was Huskar Brazaban to the Chicago White Sox, who actually just blew a save last night for the White Sox. So for those of you who are here for our watch-alongs, poor step bro, could not clean the dishes there. But in terms of Huskar Brazaban, he was traded to the Chicago White Sox for right-handed pitcher Gabe Davis and right-handed pitcher Zach Franklin. Now, Huskar Brazaban, there was a little bit of a debate of people saying, oh, I don't want to trade this guy. He has years of control. I think they were very right to sell high on him, considering not just because he is 37 years old, but also the fact of the reliever sense of it being, not being able to go at any moment. The main reason as to why they're starters. I know Brazaban, again, was someone who the Mets were leaning on a lot over these past few years to do a lot of different roles, closing out ball games, the fireman, to back up the starting pitcher. He was opening too. I mean, he was doing a lot, pitching so much. And, we'll see what happens down the line. But, I think that they did the right job selling high on him. It was the right thing for them to do. But I do disagree with how they traded him. And I do believe that guys with control should be held to more of a, not standard, but more of a long bidding process towards the end of the trade deadline. And the Mets traded him at, 1:30 in the morning before the trade deadline happened. I feel like they should have kind of held out a little bit more. But again, who knows what the bite would have been for him, considering that they're the going rate for relievers. He is a middle relief guy. He's not like a complete high leverage piece. He's not, perfect dominant. But I do think that they definitely sold him off a little bit early. Either way, in this return, they got Gabe Davis, a right-handed pitcher, their 18th overall ranked prospect on MLB Pipeline. He is a big 6'9", 22-year-old right-handed pitcher, former 5th-round pick by the White Sox in 2025. 3-pitch mix, fastball that sits 96 to 97, tops 100, lower 90s tight spin slider, which he gets most of the swings and misses on. Has a late tumbling and could be a plus changeup, but it is very, very erratic, as it seems like he hasn't had that much of a feel for it. He has struggled this season, a 5.81 earned run average across 62 innings at the AA level. He still does have starter upside, apparently, but that's kind of just falling by the wayside as the days go by. But there's definitely some reliever concerns in terms of the control that he has. Now, the other piece that they got back was Zach Franklin, who is a unranked prospect in their system, 27-year-old right-handed pitcher, former 10th round pick by the White Sox in 2023. He's a 3-pitch reliever plus fastball, sits at 93 to 94, 97 miles an hour. He has a high explosive, high spin slider with RPMs in the 2500s. He has a strong high 80s fading splitter as well. And he's also struggled a little bit at the AAA level. You just don't know in terms of the AAA level if that is, flux to the hitting environment. But he has posted a 4.60 earned run average across 47 innings pitched at the AAA level. He does attack hitters with prominent swing and miss stuff. However, it seems like he does struggle a lot with giving up a decent amount of hard contact. And again, he does experience some control issues, but he does get a decent amount of chases, plenty of swing and miss of how he gets it. However, when he doesn't get the swing and miss, I'm not trying to say it as, Ryan Stanek disease, but when he doesn't get the swing and miss, it costs you big time, which is basically how it looks for Zach Franklin, who seemed to be a ranked prospect for them like 2 years ago, but has definitely fallen down the ranks. This is more of somebody who, in the same realm of a guy like Chase McDermott, who made his Mets debut during this Guardian series, and we'll get into him later, of these organizational guys with options you call up and could eat a few innings for you when you need a fresh arm. And we likely will see somebody like Zach Franklin towards the end of the season probably get the chance, considering they did trade for him. So in terms of this trade, I probably give it a little bit lower of a grade, like a C-ish in terms of that, because again, I don't like how they went about this trade in terms of Brazoban. I really do believe that they should have kind of held off on it until the very end to trade him. Not really, to be honest, not as late as they did with Luke Weaver, but a little bit later to gauge the market in comparison to what they did do it as early as they ended up doing it, if that makes sense. So, Huascar Brazoban, a great send-off to you. You were a good Met, one of the few good additions by David Stearns in his Mets tenure. Speaking of Brooks Raley, and this one breaks my heart because I love Brooks Raley. He gets traded to our division rival Phillies for outfielder John Spikerman and right-handed pitcher Luke Gabrish. Now, this is also another low-ranked plus a unranked lottery ticket that they went after, who probably is seen as an organizational depth type of piece. John Spikerman is a 23-year-old outfielder, former 3rd-round pick by the Phillies in 2024. 27th overall ranked prospect for the Phillies. He is a switch hitter, but more of a defensive first prospect with plus plate discipline and a solid hit tool, but more known for his overall tools as a player. This year, he has slashed 252, 418, 327 with a 114 weighted runs created plus across 145 plate appearances this season at the high A level. He does have explosive 70 grade speed. He has stolen 15 bases in his limited 55 bases, in his limited minor league career, because he has been dealing with some injuries. He's been scouted as someone who can play outstanding defense in center field with the ability to play all 3 outfield positions, but he does have a plus arm, which allows you to kind of move him around at any point in the diamond, kind of similar to that Tyrone Taylor type. And he definitely does have the makings of a fourth or fifth outfielder at the major league level. So this is someone who definitely has some possible helium to get a chance in the major league level because of what he can provide, not just because of the rank of prospect or pedigree that he has, but you could see him at the major league level at some point to come off the bench. So there definitely is room for him in the major leagues going forward. There's definitely a ceiling for him in the major leagues as well. Luke Abrich, the other piece, like I said, unranked prospect, former 15th round pick by the Phillies in 2024. He's a 23-year-old right-handed pitcher. He has that 3/4 over-the-top delivery, 5-pitch mix. He has a fastball that slits at 95 to 96, tops 98 miles an hour, high 80s changeup. He has a pair of different sliders, mainly meaning he has a sweeper and a slider, and considering him from that high arm slot, I'm going to guess there's also a cutter in there. He has posted a 5.14 earned run average this year across 68 and a third innings pitched at the high A level. Whiff rates are over 30% against three separate of his secondaries. He's a big strike spammer. He does have plus control. However, again, has had a little bit of trouble overall with hard contact, blow up innings, which probably, again, I think that at this point, with somebody like him, you're probably going to be seeing him as more of a strikeout right-hander. Maybe they try to gauge him to just 2 pitches at some point because it seems like the walks have continued to go up as he's progressed through his minor league career. Last year, 3.7 walks per 9. Now he's at 4.5. So that has definitely been a little bit of a concern, has probably was been holding him back. I do believe that he's probably a little bit more of a reliever in this sense, because I just think he's very, very wild for someone, not just of the pitch mix, but somebody who I think just has those fair inconsistencies. He has hit 14 batters this year. Again, a lot of walks, just very wild as what I'm saying. So I do think that the adjustment from starter to reliever probably would benefit somebody like this, and probably as to why he's more of an organizational guy and not really a high regarded prospect in terms of the Phillies, who don't have the best farm system. This return, I don't know how to feel about it. I'm kind of 50-50 on it. Like John Spikerman, I think is a decent enough prospect. In overall tools, again, there's a lot of things, to kind of like of someone who can fill out a major league roster, because he probably could if he continues to play the way that he is. However, I probably, again, like I've already said, just get the best talent. And instead of a 27 and an unranked guy, try for 20 or try for 18, try for 17, something like that. And again, even though Raley's not making much, he will be a rental. He's old. He's up there. He's about to be 38 years old next year. I still think that this return bums me out probably the most out of all of them, I'd say, because I do think that there probably was room for them to also probably hold him off in the same standard of a guy like Huskar Brazaban. Not completely, because Brazaban has the control and Raley doesn't, but I still think you probably could have gotten you could have received a little bit better if that's what I'm saying. Either way, then you get to the two big ones here, which were 1-for-1 deals or 2-for-1 deals in the final one that they made. Luke Weaver was traded to Pittsburgh for shortstop Sammy Stefura, local kid. It seems like he's a big Mets fan growing up. But this is probably one of your legitimate pieces that you got back. And we all expected Luke Weaver to fetch a lot more in comparison to some of these guys, but this was a 1-for-1 here. He's a 21-year-old shortstop, former second-round pick by the Reds in 2023. He was their 9th overall ranked prospect via MLB Pipeline for the Pirates. Balanced hit and power tool. It seems like he had top-end exit velocities in his first struggling year in the minors, and he really has broken out this season. He has slashed a 276 367, 591 slugging, a 133 weighted runs created plus across 264 plate appearances at the high A and low A levels split across this season. He apparently has some outstanding range at the shortstop position and great instincts, which is, again, really needed at that premium position. Great speed, great athleticism, just a great overall athlete. In comparison a little bit to, like, in terms of the athleticism of somebody that does so much well on both sides of the ball, kind of in comparison to a guy like Mitch Voigt, some would say. And he has stolen 30-plus stolen bases in each of the last 2 seasons. So he has had a lot of tools on display of just an overall good athlete who can provide you a lot of different things. And we will see what happens with that. But again, I think that this return wasn't bad. If this was the best that you could possibly get, I'm good with it. I do think that there were some rumors about somebody like Murph Gray being the return, which I think would have been a slam dunk return and probably would have made this the best return in general out of any of these guys. But in terms of Murph Gray, he is more of he is a top 100 prospect towards the end. 22-year-old third baseman who has been fantastic all year and likely will get his shot in the majors really, really soon. But again, Stafura, another good one. Again, I know that a lot of Mets fans are kind of being drawn to this guy as of right now, considering the fact that he is, a local kid. He seems to be vocal about joining the Mets. But, again, I think that this was a good return. It's solid. This is a good prospect you are getting. When we talk about, prospect and overall, talent of getting the best talent, they definitely maximized the Weaver trade a lot better. And then you also have the Clay Holmes trade, which also included Tyrone Taylor going to the Cubs for their number 2 overall ranked prospect, Jefferson Rojas, who is definitely the number 1 piece that they did get throughout this entire trade deadline. And he is the number 1 piece indisputably because he actually slides right into the number 1 spot of the Mets' number 1 prospect in all of their system. He's 21 years old. He's an infielder, former international prospect out of the Dominican Republic by the Cubs back in 2022. He is a hit first prospect, but he has had his power really, really come into his own over the past 2 seasons. He has slashed 266, 335, 456 across 394 plate appearances at the Double-A level. He has been scouted to have fantastic pitch recognition and good bat-to-ball skills. He is expected to possibly have room to add a little bit more muscle to further improve his power, but overall he does have average speed. They say that he has great overall base running instincts, though. Average defender, quick hands, serviceable arm, which probably could move him over to third base considering his frame. His position is still in question. He has played some second base in his career as well in the minor league career, but he's exclusively played pretty much shortstop all season. Now, this one, I think, again, is the best return, of course, in terms of the prospect. This is somebody that was high regarded. I believe he had, $1.5 million signing bonus when they signed him in 2022. So there's that. And again, we don't know what the future is going to hold with any of these pieces, right? We don't know what that's going to look like. But in terms of guys like Jefferson Rojas, this is someone who has been scouted and has been identified as someone who could be a starting major league caliber player. So far, he is already making an impression for some of the pieces that they, again, like we said, for some of the pieces that they got back, they're already making impression or a good first impression. We'll see how that all sustains out. But in terms of Rojas, I think that this was a very, very good get in terms of a Cubs team that is acquiring 2 rentals that will both likely be going to free agency. And to get their number 2 overall ranked prospect, again, it's a good get, in my opinion, and we'll see where it goes. But I do think that this could be a very, very good balanced player for you. Again, I don't know if this is seen as like a cornerstone type of player, or this is seen as someone who, again, is kind of a role player, bottom of the lineup type of guy at the major league level. But again, this guy is in Double-A and he's 21 years old. So you're likely going to see like probably 2 more years of minor league play from him, maybe a year and a half. And then he'll probably get his shot, whether it is with the Mets or with another team, if they trade him for somebody else. But this is definitely a good get, considering you have Jefferson Rojas not only having his best season of his minor league career, but it seems like he's just been progressing, not rapidly, progressing like gradually, continuing from year to year as he continues to grow as a player. And to see that basically in such a bigger window that they do have at 21 years old, there still is a few more years of that development in order to possibly see this guy as a ceiling of a starting caliber player in the major leagues. And maybe they do end up keeping him around. You do never know. Burnto's saying talent maxing. Yeah, definitely. But either way, I think that this deadline, it's a mixed bag for me. We'll see how everything goes. But either way, I think that they did a good job on some of these trades, maximizing their return, of doing some of the 1-for-1. But, you know, the way that they were trying to kind of like fill out some of the rosters, I felt like with some of the early trades, some of the minor league rosters, I just don't know. I don't know if that was probably the best way to get a maximized return. And when I say maximized return, I don't mean top prospects, because not everybody is going to fetch what they fetch. They're not going to fetch a number one, top 100 prospect. What I believe they should have done was do a lot more 1-for-1s. That's what I believe. Get the best talent available. Don't go 2-for-1. Don't go 3-for-1. And again, I know that a lot of people were debating with me on Twitter about that, where they're like, oh, well, there's probably not that much of a difference between, you know, the highest prospect they receive in these 3-for-1s, and, you know, the number 12 prospect, the number 10. But if that isn't that much of a difference, to be honest, you probably shouldn't have traded with them. Like that's basically the mentality I'm going at for, because I do think that there's other farm systems, there's other pieces that you probably could have went to a different direction to sell off some of these pieces. But like Bill is saying here in the chat, only time will tell. Because again, I don't know where these guys are going to end up. I just feel like the approach was just a little bit flawed, the way that they did it throughout this this overall trade deadline. I think they did a good job on some, but then another one, and then in some other ones, like the Raley trade, the Brazaban trade, I was not the biggest fan. Just going to say that front and center. So if I were to rank these from the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 major trades that they made, number 1, I would obviously do the Clay Holmes and Taylor trade. Number 2 would be Weaver. Number 3 would probably be the Minter trade. Then I would probably go the Peralta trade. Then I'd go Brazaban, and then I would go Raley. So that's basically how I would go with that. But we'll see. We will see where that goes. Only time will tell. Replenishing the farm system, I just feel like the best talent, getting the best talent available, also puts you a little bit more in the running to possibly trade for stars in the offseason if you want to end up doing that. Because again, the free agent market next year is not fantastic. So the trade market is going to be active this winter beforehand, before we get into all the lockout stuff. But there's that. There's my whole take on this. Listen, they did what they had to do. I still believe that, again, they should have sold off more. I still do think that they should have sold off more. There should have been other pieces they should have pushed to get rid of, but it just seems like they were not motivated to, cover Kodai Senga's salary or cover and get kind of a damage return in return for some of these guys who are not playing well, just to get them off the team and get them out of the future plans of this team. The Luis Robert Jr. stuff, he was not traded and he is still here. He was vocal before the trade deadline saying he doesn't want to get traded, even though he's likely not going to be here next year because they're going to decline his option. It seemed like the market was low on him. It seemed like they were. It seemed like there was, preliminary discussions about him, but nothing crazy. And I think that probably was the reason as to why he was not moved. I don't know if they were just over-evaluating him in that sense, but, overvaluing him in some sense of way. I'm hoping that we're sitting here with PR talk because they were asked about Robert not getting traded to David Stearns with his press conference after the trade deadline was done. And he said, I think with Luis, it's a possibility of what he can do for us in the second half. The understanding is that there's a club option and the excitement of still having him here for the next 2 months of the season, which again, I hope is PR talk because again, it hasn't worked out. He hasn't been great. He also has been hurt. Basically what has been his MO for the past few years, pretty much for his career. Like he just really has underperformed. And he's always been below expectations. I think he started off good, but that was it. Which again, if that's what they are seeing it as, and they didn't really just draw that much interest in comparison, that's that. They're going to end up, rejecting that team option anyway. I don't think he's coming back, considering Ewing is likely your center fielder next year. But yeah, I was definitely somewhat disappointed to not see somebody like Luis Robert get traded because I do think that the market on right-handed hitters was definitely desperate enough to possibly take somebody. But again, maybe it off-lifted from them getting something from Tyrone Taylor and trading Tyrone Taylor. Everybody was looking at Tyrone Taylor more, which is obvious because he's been better than him this year. But yeah, I mean, they just weren't able to trade him. It just wasn't a possibility. And, there was also Mets fans who were kind of in full outrage of, if Simeon's here and, Beatty's still here. And I didn't expect any of them to get traded, so I'm not really that angry about the situation. Beatty, they still have an insane amount of delusion about him, thinking that he's, still going to be a staple for this team. I don't know how. They're still continuing on with the delusion because he's actually starting in right field tonight, if you guys didn't know that, because they just don't know how to learn any lesson. Vientos is hurt and also isn't good, so no one's going to take a guy who's bad and also hurt. And then Simeon is pretty much not movable at all. So that was never going to happen. So if anybody had their expectations on that, that was never going to happen in any way, shape possible. With 2 years left on his deal still, it's just not going to happen. I know that Simeon has been brutal. I know Simeon has been one of the worst players in all of baseball this year for a majority of it. He started to heat up recently, but too little too late. But yeah, he was never going to go anywhere. Not just because, David Stearns, traded for Simeon. He wants Simeon to be here. No, it's because no one wants him. If nobody wanted Luis Robert Jr., who has plenty of upside, considering the fact, and he's still young and probably could help you, off the bench or something, like in that type of role going down for his career, no one's going to want Marcus Semien. That's just never, Marcus Semien is even in worse of a situation to acquire than a guy like Luis Robert. And it seemed like a lot of teams weren't interested in Luis Robert because of the salary that he had, even though it would have been a rental and you could just reject this certain salary, there's teams that are penny pinching even more in comparison to some people who think, David Stearns is. And I'm not saying that David Stearns should get off easy on that, because David Stearns, I think, again, should have used the resource to pay down some of these contracts to get more talent in return, but he just didn't end up doing that. And that, I feel like, is one of the main reasons as to why these returns were a little bit more disappointing than they should have been, if that makes sense. But either way, we are moving on. We're moving on to the post-deadline Mets, which already have seen a little bit of excitement because they just swept the Guardians. Now, I'm not going to sit here and get excited. I know a lot of people are saying, hey, we're going to go on an incredible run after like the Tigers did. The Tigers went on a big, big run 2 years ago, and I don't think that's going to happen, guys. I think this team is pretty much dead in the water, but it was nice to see them sweep a series. In fact, this was the first time the Mets have swept the Guardians, or Cleveland, in Cleveland since 2010, which is crazy to think about. If you look at the lineup that it was in 2010, which we were actually going over it on the watch-along stream, it's been a long time. It's been a very, very long time since the Mets have gotten a sweep in Cleveland. Now, could that be more of the fact of the American League is just kind of not great? Yeah, I mean, that could be a possibility. I do think that the AL Central is extremely weak. You have pretty much like 4 teams in there who are still in the division race. Some of them are below 500 as of right now. Guardians, I think, are below 500, right? Like 2 games under 500 now that they lost to us. I mean, that's how much of a mess the AL is right now. It's going to be pretty much a crapshoot. Like the teams that are probably in playoff position in the wild card, they probably won't be in the next 2 months. Like, that's how quick and crazy it is. You have about, I think, 2 teams in the AL who are completely out of it, that being the A's and the Royals. Other than that, that's pretty much it. But either way, the Mets do get the sweep, and we do have a rundown to do. So let's get into it. Games 114, 115, 116 of 162. Mets versus Guardians. Roll the tape. Fresh off their trade deadline fire sale, the Mets would travel to Cleveland for a 3-game set with the Guardians. New York would get off to a quick start in the second inning against right-hander Joey Cantillo. 2 on, 2 out, Luis Torrens would launch a 3-run shot to the opposite field short wall in right field, his 3rd home run of the year, putting the Mets up 3-0. Next inning, Bo Bichette would lead off with his 11th home run of the year to the 10th row in left center, extending the Mets' lead to 4. Sean Manaea would make the start and fight in and out of traffic for a quality outing, but still face some trouble. Home third, 2 on, 1 out, Angel Martinez would slash an RBI double down the left field line, plating Joe Adell to get Cleveland on the board. The Mets would respond in the 4th, runner at second, 1 out, Luis Torrens would strike once again, lining an RBI single to center field, scoring Marcus Semien, putting the Mets back up by 4. Manaea would get into some trouble once again in the 5th. 2 on, 2 out. Travis Bazzano would ground an RBI single past the diving Lindor and into center field, scoring Chase DeLauder. Manaea would pitch through the 6th and end his day with 6 innings pitched, 7 hits, 2 earned runs, 5 walks, 7 strikeouts on 100 pitches. Daniel Duarte would get the 7th and only get 2 outs after a fielding error by Francisco Lindor and a walk to Chase DeLauder. He'd exit for 26-year-old left-hander Nate Lavender, making his major league debut, who would strike out Travis Bazzana to retire the side. Rode 8th, Carson Benj would lead off with a towering 451-foot blast to left center, his 12th of the year, putting the Mets back up by 4. Lavender would come back out for the 8th and work around a 1-out walk by inducing a 5-4-3 double play to end his debut with an inning and a 3rd scoreless. Kodai Senga would pitch the 9th in his new relief role and work around a 1-out walk for a scoreless inning to end it, as the post-white flag Mets would take the opener in Cleveland 6-2. In Game 2, the Mets offense would strike first in the 3rd inning against right-hander Tanner Bybee. Brett Beatty would launch his 7th home run over the 20-foot wall in left field, to open up the scoring. Next batter, Jorge Polanco would go back-to-back his second home run of the year, snapping an 0 for 26 skid, making it 2-0 New York. Next inning, runner at second, 1 out. Jared Young would rip an RBI double down the right field line, plating Carson Benj to extend the Mets' lead to 3. Christian Scott would make the start and face traffic all night before it would catch up to him in the 4th. Second and third, no one out. Travis Bazzano would line an RBI single to left field, plating Joe Adell to get Cleveland on the board. Next inning, more trouble. Bases loaded, 1 out. Nathaniel Lau would plate a pair with a 2-run single to right field, scoring Angel Hino and Steven Kwan, tying the game at 3. Scott would power through the 5th and end his day with 5 innings pitched, 6 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts on 96 pitches. The Mets would respond. Carson Benj would launch his 13th home run of the year to right center, his second of the series on back-to-back days, giving the Mets the lead. 29-year-old left-hander Jeffrey Yan would make his major league debut in the 6th and would load the bases with back-to-back singles and a walk, but buckled down, striking out Chase DeLauder and striking out Joe Adell to ground out, keeping the Mets in front, headlined by his patent electric theatrics. Dednell Nunez would make his long-awaited return to the Major League mound in the 7th and get plagued out of the gate by a fielding error by Jared Young at first base, further setting up 2 on and 2 out for Patrick Bailey, who would tie the game at 4 with an RBI single to right field, plating Brian Rocchio. Next batter, first and third, Angel Hino would give Cleveland the lead with an RBI single to left field for his 4th hit of his Major League debut, plating Angel Martinez. 27-year-old right-hander Chase McDermott would make his Mets debut in the 8th and work around a 2-out drop fly ball in left field by Christian Pache for a scoreless inning with a strikeout. The Mets would rally in the 9th against Guardians star closer Cade Smith. A leadoff walk to Jared Young, a 2-out double by Jorge Polanco to the opposite field, and a walk to Marcus Semien would load the bases. For A.J. Ewing, who would bounce one towards the middle of the diamond, Brian Rocchio would bobble it on the transfer and have no play. Jared Young would come in to score, tying the game at 5. McDermott would come back out for the 9th and work around a leadoff walk for another scoreless inning, sending this one to extras. In the road 10th, Bo Bichette would carve an RBI single to the opposite field to plate the ghost runner and give the Mets the lead, but would immediately give and take back, getting thrown out trying to stretch it into a double, sequentially holding the Mets to just 1 run going into the home 10th. But Daniel Duarte would finish it off, working around a 1-out walk by getting Nathaniel Lau to ground out, recording just his 2nd career save as the Mets would secure the series victory in Game 2, 6-5. And in the series finale, Nolan McLean would make the start and struggle right out of the gate in the 1st inning. Bases loaded, 1 out. Angel Martinez would plate a pair with a 2-run single up the middle, scoring Jose Ramirez and Chase DeLauder. The Mets would respond right away on the road 2nd. Marcus Semien would launch his 13th home run of the year off the top of the high wall in left center field, getting the Mets on the board. Later on, runner on, 1 out. Luis Torrens would give the Mets the lead with a 2-run shot to the opposite field, his 2nd of the series, his 4th of the year. Next inning, runner on, 1 out. Carson Benj would smoke an RBI triple off the wall in left field, plating Luis Robert Jr. And later on, first and third, 1 out. Marcus Semien would plate Carson Benj with a sacrifice fly to left field, putting the Mets up by 3. In the top of the 5th, second and third, 1 out. Jared Young would slash an RBI single to left field, scoring Francisco Alvarez. McLean would settle in after the 1st, but struggle once again in the 5th. 2 on, 1 out. Nathaniel Lau would launch a 3-run homer to the 10th row in right field, getting Cleveland within a run. McLean would finish the 5th and end his day with 5 innings pitched, 8 hits, 5 earned runs, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts on 94 pitches. Nate Lavender would make his 2nd Major League appearance in the 6th and toss a 1-2-3 inning with 2 strikeouts, as the Mets' bats would explode from there. 7th inning, 2nd and 3rd, 2 out. Francisco Lindor would launch his 10th home run of the year to the right field, extending the Mets' lead to 9-5. Kodai Senga would pitch the 7th and also toss a 1-2-3 inning with 2 strikeouts, and then Cleveland would just self-destruct in the 8th. 2nd and 3rd, no one out. Francisco Alvarez would rip an RBI double off the left field wall, scoring Luis Robert Jr. Later on, bases loaded, still nobody out. Jared Young would draw out a walk to force in a run as Benj would come in to score. Next batter, Luis Torrens would follow suit, drawing another bases-loaded walk, 12-5 New York. Bo Bichette would leg out an infield RBI single, scoring Marcus Semien, giving the Mets an 8-run lead. Xavier Curry would pitch the 8th and toss a 1-2-3 inning on 7 pitches, but it wasn't as smooth in the 9th. Runner at second, 1 out, Chase DeLauder would line an RBI single to right field, scoring Angel Heno, but Curry would buckle down, getting Angel Martinez to pop up to finish the game, as the Mets would sweep the Guardians in Cleveland for the first time since 2010, 13-6. The Mets are now 50-66 on the year, set to continue their 9-game road trip in Pittsburgh tonight at 7:40 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, so there's your full rundown of those 3 games. And to be honest, we all know that this has been just a miserable season for the New York Mets. But however, I will say that there were some feel-good stories wrapped into this sweep that they had with the Guardians, and I will get into those in just a bit. We start with this first game, and they attacked early against Joey Cantillo. Luis Torrens, who had 2 home runs in this series, starts them off with a 3-run homer. Bo Bichette gets himself his 11th home run of the year. They get out in front in the 3rd inning. Shamanaya, I'd say, was definitely asking for trouble for a decent amount of this game, but he was able to kind of shuffle his way out of it. 5 walks, not fantastic. I'm pretty sure he hit someone with as well on 2 strikes, which is something that Minaya has been accustomed to doing throughout his entire career, which seems to just be his thing. But, either way, the one thing that I do want to talk about in this first game is obviously Nate Lavender, who made his major league debut for this team, and he's obviously had quite a journey back and making it to the majors. He was a 14th round pick by the Mets in 2021, had a decent amount of injuries, but really rose through the system as someone who has a very, very interesting shaped fastball from the certain arm angle he throws from the left side. And then he was picked up in the Rule 5 draft by the Rays. He ended up getting returned to the Mets, and he's back with the organization. He underwent Tommy John surgery right beforehand and was kind of rehabbing through. And then, again, in the Mets minor league system, has another great year, comes up, and Nate Lavender, so far, has made 2 appearances. I think he's pitched, 2 1/3 innings pitched, and so far, so good. Let's just say that. More of a contact managing lefty, but it seems like with the certain pitch shape that he does, the way that he kind of pronates the ball, he could find a way to get more swings and misses. He's nothing really, really flashy. However, he is someone who, again, I feel like could find a way as to where he's, again, someone who stuffs the strike zone, can attack hitters, doesn't really, ride up full counts or anything, put pressure on not just pressure on the defense, but just, have the ball be put in play, because again, Lavender, as flashy of his stuff that he does not have, he has throughout his minor league career, he's always been at double-digit strikeout per nines, and he went as high, I believe, as like 15 strikeouts per 9 in 2023, and he really has not missed a beat as much in comparison since coming back from the injury. Never pitched in the Tampa Bay Rays organization because of the injury, and he really does have some pretty good stuff to where, he could be. I don't know if he's matchup inducing, and we'll see how that balance goes out from left-handed hitters and right-handed hitters. I'm not saying that he's going to be somebody who just completely replaces the production we got from Brooks Raley, because Brooks Raley was fantastic for this team. But again, from the left side, really has been impressive. Either way, Carson Bench, another home run, 2 home runs in this series and back-to-back games. Carson Bench, again, just showing off that he does have this power potential, and he does have this power that's kind of sneaking its way in spurts. I think that he was definitely homering in a good stretch. I think it was like in June, but now we're starting to see it a little bit in August as well. So we're seeing these power stretches, let's just say that, which I think is encouraging considering what you can sometimes see from these rookies who do struggle. but we also have seen a decent amount of consistency from him to where he is putting the ball in play. He's making great contact. He's working counts. Sometimes he does get a little overzealous at the plate, I will say. But in terms of his overall contact and power discrepancy, I don't see much of a difference. And I say that in a good way, to where in so many different occasions he could give you power and contact. And we all know that Benj was drafted because of the high floor that he has, of the main reason as to why, of all these certain tools that he can do at an above average level to help you win. And obviously he's shown off the amazing arm in right field. He's shown off the ability to play left field when they need him to be, maybe a little bit of center field. He's shown off a lot of his different abilities. Is this seen as like kind of a jack of all trades, master of none? If it could be, I think that's basically a success. Again, we don't need the Benj and the Ewing to be superstars. We need these guys to be productive, everyday players, and that's what they have been as well. I don't think Ewing was the best in this series. He had a few rough ABs, but he, got the hits when he needed to. He obviously had that dribbler up the middle in the second game of the series, and I'll get into that in a second. Last thing on this first game, Kodai Senga pitched in the ninth. And a lot of it having to do with your closer who was unavailable. We'll get into that in a second. But Kodai Senga is now going to be in 1 inning spurts. And to be honest, at this point, I see this as, and I don't know if the Mets see it as, this is basically his final shot to prove his worth to this team. If he's not great out of the bullpen, it's done. We have to be done. He cannot be on this team next year. And if he is, then maybe you see him as someone who could be a key bullpen piece for you, maybe in the back end, because we all know he does have good stuff. It's all really just about him harvesting it. But I will say, in these 2 appearances that he has had, we are starting to see a little bit of a difference between reliever stuff Senga and, starter stuff Senga, where it seems like he's more utilizing of either is 2 pitches or kind of a bridge pitch between 2 pitches. We saw him touch 100 miles an hour for the first time ever in his major league career. We know that he is capable of touching 99, 100 miles an hour, but we just really haven't seen it. We heard that when he was, scouted about that in Japan. But I still am not really seeing the Kodai Senga who, again, could be a back-end reliever type of guy. I'm still seeing a decent amount of hard contact. I'm still seeing a lot of full counts being ridden up. And that's just in those two relief appearances. I still just don't think he's pitching that great. At least he's being productive. And again, he has not allowed a run in this 1 inning type of thing. But I still see this as a house of cards situation to where we are talking about Senga not being on this team next year. I'm just not going to believe in it because I don't believe in Kodai Senga. My belief in Kodai Senga has left. It has left the building. It has been gone for a long time. And 2 relief outings is just not going to push me towards, this guy could be our 8th inning guy in front of Williams. This guy's going to be... I know that the bullpen is emptied out. And you can, try things like this because, again, they traded, 4 or 5 relievers? So, again, there's that. But this is basically his last audition to stay with this team. And if it's not, then we've just completely lost the plot. And we all know that the Mets love to lose the plot too, because maybe that is a possibility. But again, I'm just not seeing it as sharp as it should be. Maybe it gets better. To him in that reliever role. If he ends up being a reliever role and an overpaid back-end reliever, that is fine. But I'm just not putting that much stock into it. And I think that folks that are putting stock into it are pretty much setting themselves in to be disappointed because that's basically all Kodai Senga has been for these last few seasons is a disappointment. You go over to game 2. Christian Scott, not the best start, but I kind of expected him to struggle a little bit with a contact-oriented team, such as this Cleveland Guardians team. We saw him get behind in the count a lot to start off, not start off, in the middle innings where he started off quick. I think he retired, what was it, the first 5 batters he faced, and then he hit Brian Rocchio with a pitch, and I think that was kind of the start of him a little bit losing it a little bit. You know what I mean? Like he was definitely starting to kind of ride up the pitch count a little bit. We saw a lot of full counts a little bit as he continued on. He obviously got out of that inning. But once we got into, that third and fourth inning, he got into a little bit of trouble in that fourth inning. He was able to limit the damage. I think that he didn't have his best stuff. However, we still saw a little bit of flash as well. Decent amount of swing and miss. I'm pretty sure he touched 98 multiple times as well. So there is that. But he was able to still give you a quality outing. He still was limiting the walks, only 2 walks. He obviously hit a batter. So again, it wasn't the best, obviously. But again, in terms of Christian Scott, you want him to go out there and give you a chance to compete. It would have been nice to see him go into the 6th inning, but it didn't end up happening. Either way, it was pretty impressive. Now, speaking of impressive, because I did not expect this to happen, 3rd inning of this game, Brett Beatty hits his 7th home run of the year, and then Jorge Polanco homers, his 2nd of the year. Obviously, he's been hurt, he's been out, but also he's been terrible. So Brett Beatty and Polanco, arguably probably the two worst hitters on this team right now, statistically, go back to back to start off the scoring in the 3rd inning to make a statement against Tanner Bybee, who again got a decent amount of swing and miss, along with the Mets tagging him for 3 separate home runs. He did get 10 strikeouts in this game. He was attacking these guys. He didn't walk anybody. He was definitely making his pitches. The Mets just beat him on 3. Jorge Polanco, the story is apparently, excuse me. The story was apparently Jorge Polanco, obviously, he had a 0 for 26 stretch in leading up to that AB. Before the game, he took 300 swings from the left side of the plate in BP. Andy Green basically just kind of showed a little bit of the confidence of him being a pro's pro and things like that. His demeanor hasn't changed or whatever. And that's one of the things that I do like about Jorge Polanco. And I think it really sucks that this season has turned out the way that it has, because arguably he's been the worst player on this team. I do have hope that he could be better next year. If he's back next year, he likely will be, whether that's in the DH role or whatever it is. Because again, he's just too good of a hitter to be hitting this bad. And I know that a lot of people, again, they look at Polanco and judge him in terms of, oh, that other first baseman we let go of. But listen, Polanco throughout his career is a lot better of a hitter than this. And I think we can all agree that he is. He is a career, I think, 750 OPS bat, 763 OPS bat, a career 109 weighted runs created plus. This guy is a solid ball player and has been throughout his career. He's obviously had his injuries. He has his inconsistencies. He has his streakiness. But he's a lot better than this. But he gets the home run, gets the monkey off his back, but I don't think that was even the most impressive thing about it, obviously coming short off of, the 300 swings from the left side of the plate, which kind of got him into that. What was more impressive was the at-bat he had against Cade Smith later on in this game. Now, in terms of that, was in the top of the 9th during their rally. Now, here's the crazy part about this. The first pitch, he starts him off with a 99-mile-an-hour fastball in. He obviously missed in. And he's just basically trying to emergency hack it and kind of falls down off balance, which we've seen a lot from Jorge Polanco and could be something with the lower body and the Achilles injury he's been having. And then he's off balance on the second one. So he's embarrassed for the first 2 pitches. And when that does happen, you're always like, oh, shit, here we go. But he goes into his 2-strike approach, slaps it to left field, gets the double, and sets up the rally. So that was a very, very impressive AB, which usually doesn't completely happen. Because, again, we've seen Polanco go down 0-2 in the count a lot. A lot. And I mean a lot. It's kind of been his thing since he's come back. So for him to kind of, actually do something with 2 strikes, of the 2-strike hitter we know he's a lot better as an overall balanced hitter he's been throughout his career. This year, obviously, has barely been anything. It's at least encouraging. At least encouraging enough to say that, oh, Polanco has something left. Because I don't think he's just completely washed and his career is done. He's coming off of a career year. He's been a productive bat throughout his career, and I do think he will be better if he does come back next year, and he's on the team next year, which I think he will be. Now let's get into Jeffrey Yan. This is the whole big story as of right now that I think is taking center stage, whether it is in the media, overall social media, with overall Mets fans. Now listen, Jeffrey Yan is someone who is quite a story. He really is. Never made his major league debut until now. And listen, it's not because of the antics or anything, but again, this is a guy who will get excited after he strikes someone out. And we see the jumps and the near splits and the celebrations, the emotes, as the kids like to say. Listen, here's the deal with this. I 100% agree to a certain extent, or 100% get that people will look at this and it'll get on their nerves. I believe that there is a window where there's a possibility where if he pitches bad, which he almost did have a little bit of a blow up there, if he does pitch bad, it'll look bad. It would. The only thing is that in terms of the situation where the Mets are in, where they've had such a miserable season, I feel like we're at a point where this team throughout the entire year has looked like lifeless zombies. A team that is just looking like they are mailing it in, not paying attention, not at the top of their game, everyone having career worst seasons. Guys like Bichette and Polanco and Simeon, and even, Lindor to an extent has been unfocused in many parts of it. It's a lost season. At this point, I think that it's a good thing that you're getting someone this, with this type of energy, and this guy who can possibly, I'm not trying to say bring the clubhouse together, but we've already been seeing early impressions of it, of Noah McLean talking about the overall energy of Jeffrey Yan, Christian Scott talking about it. And again, those types of things definitely do matter, of a team that could play through each other. Again, who knows if this materializes into anything, but in terms of Jeffrey Yan, this is a very talented arm. He really is. This guy can touch 102 miles an hour on a sinker. He has a wipeout slider as well, more of a 2-pitch guy. I think he has a changeup as well, but doesn't use it that much. And listen, this is a great story. It really is. 29 years old. He started off as with Tommy John surgery earlier on in his career. Didn't know if he was ever going to pitch again because he had other arm issues. For 5 years, this guy was basically working different types of jobs, was pitching overseas for 5 years. The Mets gave him a chance this year, and he's basically just run away with it from a different level. He was never someone who was gassing triple digits. He was always a high 90s guy, very flashy, someone who can, contact manage with the sinker, big, swing and miss type of guy. But again, this is the type of stuff I feel like can get people amped up. Now, if he's throwing a bunch of cookies down the middle, because again, teams can hit 101 miles an hour. Professionals can. And to be honest, I do think that there is a point where this could go south. Because again, he loaded the bases in this outing that he had. It wasn't clean. He got out of it, and he showed the energy. I think it's great. I really do. I really think it's awesome that this guy I think he really has earned it. He's earned the right to celebrate. He's earned the right to do what he does. The problem is that you have a very tangled web of, how this can be perceived. And the way that this does get perceived personally with me is celebrate all you want. If you do something great, if you strike someone out, celebrate all you want. You hit a home run, celebrate all you want. Just don't embarrass yourself. You do a bat flip on, a fly ball that doesn't end up being a home run. You deserve to also, on the other side, it goes both ways. You deserve to be embarrassed for that. You deserve to take ridicule for that. So that's basically where I'm at. It needs to have a balance. It really does. He can do it as much as he wants. Go ahead and do it. If he's going to pitch and strike guys out and be dominant and show that type of stuff, awesome. The problem is that there is going to be a point where he does give up runs. And then there's going to be a certain point where maybe he gets into the other team's head and pisses them off in a bad way. We already saw it a little bit with the Guardians. We saw their dugout get a little bit pissed. Rhys Hoskins, obviously, always in the middle of things. We saw Jose Ramirez even jumping in the dugout when they started to get hits. So people were definitely showing a notice. Guardians fans were booing him. Listen, I personally don't care if you're the most hated pitcher in all of baseball for the antics you do on the field. As long as you pitch well, you produce. And that's pretty much it. That's all I care about. Could there be a point where this does get old? Yes. Could there be a point where he pisses someone off, starts a brawl? Could that happen? I wouldn't count it out. I really wouldn't. But I think that in perfect time and perfect place, this is what the Mets need right now. Not gimmicks, not just saying gimmicks, but they just need this type of energy to either, whether we're talking about branching into 2027 or just ending off a year with some entertainment for fans who have been watching crap all year. This has been awful to watch. This has been a brutal team to watch. And I think we can all agree. We all can agree. Let's see. But yeah, you and I both know that this guy is going to get somebody drilled. Hopefully it's not one of the youngsters. Yeah, you'd hope so, but also I'm also hoping that if somebody does get drilled, that there's going to be guys who, again, I'm not trying to say, make the statement, fight everyone. But for a team that has been walked over as much as they have, if you ignite your opponent to getting, upset and you rattle your opponent, get in their head, I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind being hated like maybe this guy possibly could be, or be called a clown or a disgrace to baseball. This celebration, it's not great. The get off my lawn crew, like that if you want to upset them, go ahead and do it, because that means you're in their head. And as a team, as a franchise that gets walked over as much as they do, I don't mind it. I don't mind it. Mets haven't shown fight in years. Exactly. If this can ignite them, I'm all for it. I don't think it's going to bring them into the playoffs. They're going to make some miracle run and win 20 games in a row. I don't. But that certain presence, either in the locker room, the clubhouse, this guy who seems to be just happy to be there, seems to enjoy what he enjoys. And I personally think that he has earned it, considering the road that he has had. And big props to him for getting to the major leagues finally, someone giving him a chance. And as someone who throws 102 miles an hour, and we know could be a talented arm for you, you might as well ride it out. Could it get old? It could get old. Who knows? I could definitely understand where it could get on someone's nerves. I get it. However, this, I believe, is what this team needs right now. Because we're not competing for anything. I feel like those types of presence, those types of guys in the clubhouse are important. We know that they are. And when you have a team that's not succeeding the way that they haven't been succeeding over these last 2 years, you got to kind of go back into the basics and kind of go into the root of the clubhouse and kind of just, shake things up. And that's what Jeffrey Yon does. Either way, Daniel Nunez made his return from the injured list as well. So it was definitely the, let's say, I don't know. It was definitely the series of redemption or the series of feel-good stories. Daniel Nunez, one of our best relievers, if not the best reliever for the team in 2024 before he got hurt. He comes back in 2025 for a little bit, ends up having to get Tommy John surgery again. It's just been a heartbreaking journey for him. He comes back. He automatically experiences what our pitchers have been experiencing. A fielding error by Jared Young to start off the inning. Then he responds with it, striking out Travis Bazzana, gets to set to 2 outs, and then gets singled to death on back-to-back plate appearances. And basically, death by 1,000 paper cuts. Here it comes with a team like the Guardians who is contact oriented. He got 2 strikeouts. I thought he looked fine. I thought he looked a lot sharper. I thought he looked sharp. Didn't seem his control was out of whack. But I think that error, again, kind of just maneuvered things. I saw a lot of people kind of saying, he doesn't look great. I thought he looked okay. I did. And it seems like some of the underlying numbers from that appearance he had, and again, it's a small sample, it seemed like they were on par for what he was doing in 2024, right? So that, I think, again, Daniel Nunez, they're going to see him as a big piece in this bullpen going forward. He's likely going to be here for 2027. And hopefully he can stay healthy. That's all we really, really hope. Chase McDermott also made his debut, 2 scoreless innings in his debut, which got this game to extra innings. And then the Guardians for a lot in this game, for a team that's very contact-oriented, intangibles-oriented. They play some good defense. They were not smooth at all in this game. At all. In this series, at all. We all know the Brian Rocchio error that happened in the top of the 9th. Like we said, with that rally they had, they tied the game. We saw this team, again, we don't usually when they're trailing after 8 innings, that's been a problem for them. I think they've won 2 or 3 games since the beginning of last season. They just didn't have a single comeback win in them. And then they came back in the 9th inning. And they also had the relief pitching buckle it down the way that they did. Daniel Duarte, I don't think he pitched the best, but he was able to strand that runner at second base in the 10th inning. And then they got the win. And then the final game, Nolan McLean. Not his best outing. I think we could all agree. Still had his swing and miss stuff, but I think he was falling behind in the count. He was trying to catch up the way that he was, and they were making a decent amount of contact against him. He got a decent amount of swing and miss, and I think he got the same amount of contact as well in return. So it was a very balanced good and bad. We know the bad cancels out of it. He gave up that big 3-run homer to Nathaniel Lau, struggled out of the gate as well. Listen, he's not going to be perfect every single time. He made a few mistakes. He costed himself a little bit with some full counts. He had a walk or 2 in there that kind of, set up the danger zone a little bit. But that was that. Lavender with another good outing, matched by Kodai Senga, who also I think threw the same amount of pitches, got 2 strikeouts in 1 inning. Xavier Curry pitches 2 innings, gave up 1 run in the bottom of the 9th. And then Guardians pretty much just self-destructed. You had back-to-back bases loaded walks. Francisco Lindor finally got out of that schneid he was in throughout this Guardian series where he just really was not looking great. And the Mets backed up their young starter, which it seemed like they weren't giving him much run support throughout the entire year. And then also with run support, McLean has had a little bit of a tendency to give it back. It hasn't happened every single time, but it has happened. Um, but hey, it's listen. I think again, it's all really just part of the learning for McLean. He's pitched well recently. He had a really good month of July, and hopefully, he learns from that, and he should be. Listen, maybe he'll be a lot better in the next start. We'll see. Who knows? Either way, anything else I want to add here? Marcus Semien, he's been heating up in his last 10 games. That's been good. And he was good in this series, I'd say. Let's see. Luis Torrens, big key to them winning this series. Some big hits there as well. He also played some good defense behind the plate. Pretty good at challenging pitches as well. Some of their best stretches that we saw. Let's see. Bichette had a few clutch hits in there. You saw a little bit of Christian Pache. His first impression was dropping a fly ball. That's not great. He hasn't really done much offensively yet, but he was able to make up for it right after with Chase McDermott on the mound. So again, we're starting to see how, they're evaluating internally of what's going to be next year. But, there are some pieces that you can get excited about, such as Jeffrey Yan. Nate Lavender has been impressive so far, and he's basically shown that he hasn't skipped a beat since the injury. If you want to get excited for Senga as a one-inning reliever, go ahead. I'm not going to be on that boat. I'm sorry. I just can't do it. But there's that. Either way, studs and duds of this series. One player that was good, one player that was bad. I have a few, but I'm going to go with Luis Torrens in the stud category. I think that, again, some of the clutch hits as well, using the opposite field the way that he was. We know that he's more of an opposite gap type of hitter. But, to show off that power to the opposite field is at least impressive. But he also was working out some really good plate appearances as well. In crunch time, we know that he has been a pretty good clutch hitter for this team. And then I also did think that he called a pretty good game given the circumstances. I think it was in the first game with Minaya on the mound, who seemed to be a little bit wild on the mound. So again, good series from him. One of the main reasons. But hey, you can also put Jorge Polanco in there for the statement he did make in that second game, snapping that 0-for-26 skid, obviously with the home run, but also, like I said, that 0-2 count where he made him look silly in the first two, those first two pitches against Cade Smith, one of the better relievers in this game, who throws pretty hard, and he was able to make that adjustment to his two-strike approach and help rally in that top of the ninth. So that was very big. I don't know if there was really anybody else. Jared Young had a few good games in this, barrage of their offense towards the end of this series. He put in some good ABs as well. Let's see. Carson Benj, we can also put him in there. He had a really good series, defensively as well in right field. Let's see. I don't know if there was anybody else you guys can mention from the stud category. Let's see. I mean, perhaps Bichette, because he definitely had a few moments there, but he also had a few that weren't great. That's kind of just what we've been getting from Bichette this year. You could also put out, some stuff about, Scott, because I thought he limited damage fairly well in comparison to the hand that he was dealt. He didn't have his best stuff. But either way, with the dud category, aside from that three-run home run he had in the series finale, it was a brutal series for Lindor. It really was. And it's not just the fact of, he was striking out a lot. He had a few offers. He didn't look great. Yes, he had some 3-pitch strikeouts mixed into there. But I think that one of the things that makes it a little bit, defining as to why I think that he was a dud in this series was more of the rally in the ninth inning, where you had a little bit of excitement to where you got an extra life and an extra out. It's an infield error by Brian Rocchio to where, they tie the game at 5. The bases are loaded, they rally, and then Francisco Lindor kind of follows it up, striking out on 3 pitches, taking a called strike, then swings and misses at 2, nasty pitches because Cade Smith is a good reliever. But it just kind of just sucked considering, you had a little bit of excitement. The Mets finally get something to go their way, and then you just see Lindor strike out on 3 pitches, and that was it. That was it. That just seemed like, okay, a momentum killer. He also had a few rough outings with some runners on base as well. Mets weren't completely smooth with runners in scoring position in that second game and that first game. 2 for 10 with runners in scoring position. They left 6 on base. So yeah, I don't think Lindor was fantastic. You can also put McClain there. He just definitely did not have his best stuff. Let's see. Alvarez wasn't fantastic offensively in this series, but got a couple of hits there. He obviously had that RBI double off the wall in the series finale. So again, collectively, the Mets had plenty of reasons why they swept this series. And listen, good for them. But again, you're going to need a lot more to pull off a miracle here. I'm just not putting my chips in the possibility of it happening. But either way, a good sweep. They did what they needed to do. Either way, rapid fire stories. Devin Williams was available to pitch out of the bullpen on Wednesday night, the second game of this series. One of the main reasons as to why McDermott was in there for 2 innings due to right arm fatigue. It was reported he played catch yesterday and was available for the series finale, so he's all good to go. It just seemed like they needed to give him an extra breather. I'm not sure. MJ Melendez, DFA'd, and outrighted over to AAA Syracuse, so he is still with the organization. He posted a .665 OPS across 144 plate appearances with the MLB club this season. He has been slashing an OPS over 800 with a 116 weighted runs created plus for AAA Syracuse. I think he homered last night as well, so he's back. He's still there. First baseman / third baseman Nick LaRusso has been promoted to AAA Syracuse. He has slashed 241, 318, 497 with a 114 weighted runs created plus for AA Binghamton. This was an organizational guy, 9th round pick in the 2023 MLB draft. Had an impressive season 2 years ago, kind of took a step back last year, and now he seemed to have found his footing once again. Could he be somebody who gets a chance at one point? I don't know. But it seems like he's seemed to be a late bloomer for this organization, and so far he has been somewhat impressive for a 9th round talent. Brandon Waddell, left-handed pitcher, and outfielder / DH Mike Tauchman have been released by the Mets. Waddell posted a 3.45 earned run average last season for the Mets across 31 1/3 innings pitched. Tauchman, he's been out since the last week of spring training due to a right meniscus tear in his right knee. He underwent surgery on it, and he started rehab last month, but he has been released. It seems like he is fully ready to go. The Mets haven't called him up yet. We were kind of expecting him to get called up, but I guess, I don't know, the fact that they didn't trade Robert, maybe he was not called up. Because that was one of the factors there, but also it seems like they're just giving him an opportunity to latch on with another team, and it's only fair because, Mike Tauchman is a seasoned vet in this game. He's a good hitter, and any playoff team could use him. Jonathan Santucci made his AAA Syracuse debut on Saturday night. 4 innings pitched, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 5 walks, 7 strikeouts on 90 pitches. Their 3rd overall ranked prospect. Jack Wenninger last night made his 17th start of the year. It did not go fantastically. 5 innings pitched, 3 hits, 6 earned runs, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts on 91 pitches. And then, of course, Jonah Tong, his 20th start of the year for AAA Syracuse on Wednesday, did not go well. 5 innings pitched, 5 hits, 5 earned runs, 1 unearned, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts on 82 pitches. He also gave up, in those 5 runs, 5 separate solo home runs. So that is not great. So it's definitely been a rough season for Jonah Tong. Danny Capps, also another piece of rapid fire, which I did not have time to add in because it happened so early right before it went live. Gabriel Arias has been claimed off of waivers from the Guardians, who we just played, who was DFA'd, I believe, last week to make room for Angel Hano, who ended up having like that 4-hit game in his debut. He's a league average bat, not league average, a league replacement bat, strikes out a shit ton, refuses to walk, does hit the ball hard, but that's pretty much about it. You know, this is a backup infielder type of guy, so he's added to their 40-man roster. I don't know what that really means. For anybody else, maybe he does get a chance at some point, like an Andy Ibanez that we had earlier on this year. So nothing really crazy, but again, roster moves be roster moves. He hasn't really been hitting this year. Not much, as just kind of a infield utility guy, comes off the bench, 26 years old. He's been in the league for about, 5 years. So yeah, there's that. He is not related to Daniel LaRusso. Let's see. Other than that, I don't think that there's anything else. Oh, one more thing. Mrs. Met inducted into the Mascot Hall of Fame. So good for Mrs. Met, the first female mascot to be inducted into the Mascot Hall of Fame. I know Mr. Met is in there already, so congratulations to Mrs. Met. We're not going to go any further on that because we know that there's a situation around Mrs. Met that's kind of creepy. I'm not going to lie. And it kind of creeps me out too. So I'm going to try and just avoid it. How about that? Either way, let's get into this upcoming Pirates series, which we are going to have a watch along for starting at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, which is about in an hour. But firsthand, we have the pitching matchups. First one, Zach Thornton will make his 7th career MLB start tonight in the series opener. He'll face the 26-year-old right-hander Carmen Molodzinski. First pitch is tonight at 6:40 p.m. Eastern time on Pix 11. Game 2, Robert Stock will make his 2nd start in the Mets rotation. He'll face the 23-year-old hard-throwing right-hander Bubba Chandler. First pitch is tomorrow night at 7:40 p.m. Eastern time on SNY. And, of course, with the series finale, Sean Manaea will get the start. He'll face the 25-year-old right-hander coming off of injury over the past few months, Jared Jones. First pitch is Sunday afternoon at 1:35 p.m. Eastern time on SNY. So, in terms of this Pirates team, they are in contention. They have Luke Weaver now, who we just sent over in a trade, so maybe we will likely see him throughout this series. Again, likely he'll pitch against us. I don't expect anything less from a team that's trying to compete, and, Luke Weaver's been really, really good. And they made, a few trades at the trade deadline, but nothing crazy. Jake Mangum, who's actually leading off tonight for them, former Mets farmhand, outfielder, 9th-round pick. He's been a solid part-time player for them. Henry Davis has been terrible, like he has been since the beginning, but their offense has been really good all year. Ryan O'Hearn on the injured list, you won't see him. Connor Griffin was good, has been hurt for quite a while. Brandon Lau has been pretty much carrying a lot of the load. 24 home runs on the year. We know how much power he has. Spencer Horwitz has broken out this year. It's been pretty good for them. I think O'Neal Cruz is hurt. They have a lot of guys who are filling in. Esmerlin Valdez, who's been pretty much the talk of the town, a 158 OPS plus. He has been so good. He's a rookie and been pretty much their starting right fielder or left fielder. And in 47 games, I mean, this kid has 14 home runs. He's been just insane to start off his major league career. So that's somebody to look out for. Andy Rodriguez, who is actually a former Mets prospect, who was actually traded to Pittsburgh in the Joey Lucchesi trade. It was a 3-team trade from the Padres. And he's having himself a great year as well. They do have a lot of good offensive pieces on this team. One thing that has struggled and underperformed has been their pitching. Paul Skeens has fallen off a cliff recently. We will not be facing him in this series. Their best pitcher, arguably, this year, aside from Skeens, has likely just come out of their bullpen, that being actually Yohan Ramirez, former Met. So there's that. He's had a good year, 2.95 earned run average. Dennis Santana, former Met, he has completely fallen off a cliff, somebody they probably should have traded last year. I know Braxton Ashcraft has also had a good year, but again, that's someone they will not be facing in this series. We'll see Gregory Soto, the former Met. He has been doing his wildness as per usual. Mason Montgomery, another guy, cheap bargain deal, who's been solid for them this year. Carmen Malodzinski, who they're going to be facing, who's going to be starting. He's also had some relief appearances too. Evan Sisk has been good in his short sample size. No, actually not short sample size. 33 appearances, a 2.17 earned run average. I was looking at somebody else, my bad. And then they've also had some other guys rotate in and out from their bullpen. A lot of guys on the injured list for this team. And then, of course, the last thing overall, like I said, the offense for this Pirates team has definitely picked up in comparison to what they have had in the past. Let me just try and pop them up here. They're top 5 in nearly every single category. They are high in stolen bases. So again, Luis Torrens is going to be a key for this because we all know they are 3rd in batting average this year. They are 4th in on-base percentage, 4th in OPS plus. The starting pitching has been disappointing, but still has been solid enough to keep them into games. The one thing that is the biggest weakness for this team is their defense. Their defense is horrid. One of the worst in all of baseball. But again, you can also argue the Mets have one of the worst in all of baseball. So we will see. Guys to watch in this series on the Mets side. I'm just going to continue to preach the young talent, but also Robert Stock. I'm going to give a spotlight to him because I thought he pitched very, very well in his first start with the Mets. And the guy has really, really good stuff. He's quite a comeback story. He was pitching overseas. He was with the Mets actually in 2021. And obviously we didn't get to recap that Marlins series that they had because we went live for the trade deadline. But in terms of, what we are seeing with some of these pitchers, the Robert Stock, the Jeffrey Hahn, the Chase McDermott, the, Nate Lavender, these pieces, those are the guys I think you have to watch the closest. Because those are pieces that could probably help you at the major league level going forward, maybe in 2027, or maybe there's some guys who can be a key piece to a miracle run into the playoffs this year, which I don't think is going to happen. But either way, those are the guys that I think that you can watch out for. And then let's see, one player who I think has a really good career against the Pirates. I think Brett Beatty has a good career against the Pirates as well. But is somebody else. I don't know if it's Polanco. Somebody has a really good career against the Pirates in their career at PNC Park. This is also a place that they have not been able to win. So maybe you slay some even more demons. They get their first sweep in Cleveland since 2010. So I don't know. Try it in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is a place that the Mets have definitely struggled in. I think last year they got blown out like 3 consecutive times. They got just completely humiliated. So yeah, there's that. But either way, for this series, make sure to tune in tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday afternoon for watch-along coverage of the Mets versus Pirates series, hosted by the newest members of Mets Weekly, Evan and Matt. 10 minutes before first pitch, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time tonight and tomorrow, and 1:25 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday, barring any delay that is needed for live commentary, play-by-play, banter, out-of-pocket jokes, and some special guests along the way. It all starts tonight at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, 10 minutes before first pitch. We hope to see you guys there. A few things I do want to go over. We all know that the media had a lot to say and a lot of minds around baseball that had to say that the Mets were at fault for Freddie Peralta being so bad. And to be honest, our defense has been awful. The Mets defense has been awful. But it was just nice to be a little bit more vindicated in comparison to what we usually are and just stepped over and criticized constantly. Freddie Peralta in his Rays debut, boy, that was disgusting, wasn't it? And to be honest, I'm just glad it wasn't in a Mets uniform, and I'm glad I don't have to watch this anymore. 3 2/3 innings pitched, 9 hits, 7 earned runs, 2 separate home runs, a walk, 3 strikeouts. It was just a mess for him, and that's what it's basically been all season for him. His earned run average this year balloons up to 5.37. This will be the last time I'm talking about Freddie Peralta, but it basically just connects to, how the media perceives us and how it actually is. And I'm not going to say that, to our own expense, we don't deserve some of it, because the Mets obviously have shown a lot of incompetence. But there's just some things that are too extreme, and when we can point out when the media or the industry is incorrect, it is funny. I'm not going to lie. So maybe Peralta does well because, again, he was in Colorado. It's a big hitter's ballpark. So definitely not the best way to put a struggling starter on the mound in Colorado. Definitely not the best way to kind of regain it. But listen, that's what we've seen from Freddie Peralta in any ballpark this year. That's basically what he is. It was just a big disappointment. Speaking of Freddie Peralta, we also got an article and some media about Freddie Peralta kind of like saving the day when it comes to Lindor and Soto and meditating with them. Cool. Awesome. Listen, I don't want to get fully into this at all, because I do think that the topic of discussion in terms of Lindor and Soto and the top guys on this team is more of an off-season discussion. But it basically just shows what the media are out right now to basically kick the Mets while they're down. Again, there's plenty of it that they deserve and ridicule. But the fact that this came out right after, the day after Freddie Peralta got traded, and the day after he gets shelled in his Rays debut, this is the story in New York media. Oh, he's a savior. He really contributed to the relationship getting better between Lindor and Soto. Look at him. He's a great guy. He does his taxes. Awesome. Here's the thing, okay? Personally, I don't even care about this entire situation, because I think that even if there was an issue, there probably is less of an issue now. Could there have been an issue? Who knows? Will we talk about it probably more in the offseason? Yes. But again, it basically just shows you the field day that the media is going to have when the Mets aren't great. And again, there is criticism to go around. There 100% is. But there's also the stupid shit on the side that I feel like there's no need for it. There's no need for things like this to be said. The thing is that we know that the media does go after Lindor. Lindor is a controversial topic here. And he will be a controversial topic, I do believe, in the offseason. But the way that I think the sequence of events happened, the fact that we do see Freddie Peralta get shelled the way that he did in his Rays debut, and this is what comes out, it's obviously more of the media trying to push narratives that someone's an issue in the clubhouse. They traded the wrong guy. It's very, very clear that that was kind of the message they were bringing out. Now, this was obviously a Mike Puma article. This is something that Mike Puma has done plenty of times. I just didn't really see much of a need for it. I really didn't. And listen, if that helped out, great. But listen, he also could have helped out pitching better. He didn't pitch better. He was one of the reasons why this team wasn't great. One of the many reasons. And I don't need to hear Freddie Peralta as a savior. Don't try and sell that on me. To try and fuel the fact of, oh, Lindor's a problem. Fuel that. Fuel that to the people who are anti-Lindor and want Lindor gone. Fuel that as a problem, saying he's the problem, they traded the wrong guy. Meanwhile, these are the same people who say, oh, Freddie Peralta's been horrible, get rid of him. It's just a very desperate ploy for narratives. And that's why I find that annoying. And listen, if that helped out, great. If he saved them, great. If he was the man who was the miracle to help them out, awesome. Personally, I don't give a shit. Don't care. Really don't care. That's basically where I'm going out with it. All right? That's basically exactly where I'm going out, and I'm hoping that they can just finish this season and they can coexist. If they can't, we'll talk about that later on. So we're done for the Freddie Peralta era in Queens. It was short-lived. It wasn't fun. And I don't need to hear reminders of that, especially at the expense and after him getting blown up in his Rays debut, the same shit that he has been doing on the mound for the Mets throughout his entire Mets tenure. It's just very disingenuous by the media. Really is. No matter how hard you spin it. I'm not saying that the Mets don't deserve ridicule. What I'm saying is it's getting spun in the wrong direction to not only gaslight fans, anger fans, but also add extra types of detail that not only doesn't need to be public, but also is something that I feel like continues to add fuel to the fire and also distracts us from going forward constructively with this team. Because if you're just going to talk about the Lindor and Soto relationship of professional ball players, we are never going to win. Ever. If we're going to put a spotlight to this, they are never going to win. They are never going to put themselves in a position to be a sustainable winner. If this continues to be bringing up old stuff, bringing up things to the ploy of players that are not here, I just think it's bullshit. And I'm not saying that there isn't any problems, but I think it's just a very sleazy way that the media is trying to perceive it right now. And I feel like we have a lot more issues on this team than the relationship between Francisco Lindor and Juan Soto. I really do believe that. I could be wrong. But we need our stars to perform. We need our stars to be healthy. And that's the only way it can give us a fighting chance. And there's just no way that they are going to have a fighting chance if this is going to take center stage. There's just no way it's going to happen. The problem is the media is never going to learn their lesson. They're always going to go for clicks. It's really just how it's all perceived by everyone. And I don't know if that article was put behind a paywall, but if it was, it's probably something that doesn't mean that much. And I'm sure we'll get into it. I'm sure we will. But there is more things that I think are a lot more important in comparison to this. Either way, I'm going to end it off here. I will be live for the watch along in about 20 minutes. So make sure to stay tuned for that. Mets versus Pirates. I will be live doing the play-by-play. I'm not sure if Andrew's going to be able to join. Still don't know. But it likely will just be me doing the play-by-play. So for those of you in here, right now. Thank you so much for watching, listening. We hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. If you're watching or listening on playback, you want to join the conversation live in the future, make sure to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel. Turn on those post notifications to not miss when we go live. Make sure to follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok. Follow us all individually. And finally, let's go Mets. We will see you guys next time.